Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lindsay, a member of the CK-12 team, and my colleague Carl and I will be running today's webinar, Strategies for Using CK-12. We're so glad you all have joined us. For many of you who've joined us today, this might be the third of your Certified Educator Program live requirements. So welcome back to all of you who have joined us for the FlexBooks and the Customizing Adaptive Practice and Customizing FlexBooks webinars. If you are brand new to the Certified Educator Program and you want to learn more and officially get registered with us, you can visit ck12.org/certified and press register to get started. Just a reminder that our revamped program includes 4 components: 2 on-demand sessions that you can watch on your own schedule, 3 core live webinars, matching assignments, and a final form requesting your certificate. Since this session counts as one of the core live sessions, you'll already be a third of your way through the requirement at the end of this hour. We can discuss more about the Certified Educator Program at the end of today's webinar, or you're welcome to type any questions in the Q&A window for our team to answer privately. I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with our 2 Zoom windows that we'll be using for today's webinar. During the presentation, whenever you have a question about CK-12 that you want our team to answer, please post it in the Q&A window. That's the window that we will monitor, and we'll be asking Carl some questions throughout the webinar today. The chat window is your place for community conversation. You're already doing a great job introducing yourselves. Feel free to share your name, where you're from, if you're an educator, what you teach. Just make sure in that chat window that you're sending your messages to all panelists and attendees. Sometimes you just send it to panelists, and we at CK-12 are the only ones who can see those messages. So make sure to change that to say all panelists and attendees. Also, while we don't anticipate any technical issues during our broadcast, if you're having any trouble with your video or sound, you can let us know that in the Q&A window as well. And I will mention that this webinar is being recorded, and we will have it posted to our webinars page within 24 hours if you need to reference it. Couple more things. We do have 2 resource pages that you might find helpful for this session. The first is a general strategies page, and the second covers the SIMS and PLIX strategies that we'll be including in today's webinar. So you can find them at the following tiny URLs. We'll probably post those in the chat window here in a second. They'll likely get lost with all of your introductions, but 2 tiny URLs, one that says CK-12 Strategies 2019 and CK-12 PLIX SIMS 2019. No big action item there, just know that those reference pages are available for you when you're trying to go back and do some review of today's session. So let's talk about today's core content. With our FlexBook 2.0 platform, you do have the tools and resources all in one place to plan and customize, to deliver and differentiate, and to assess and remediate. So with that in mind, we're going to be covering strategies within each of those areas. Lessons and homework. We'll talk about designing your classes and assignments using CK-12 resources as supplemental or core curriculum, ways to customize CK-12 to meet your needs, and integrating related content throughout your FlexBooks and lessons. Then we'll go into ways to differentiate and support learning at all levels, including CK-12 classes, innate components of our offerings, and literacy tools. We will wrap up the webinar with ways to use CK-12 to assess learning, monitor progress, and remediate when needed. Our main goal is that by the end of the session, you come away with specific and actionable strategies you can use immediately to engage your students using CK-12 resources. Before we really get into the heart of all of this, we're going to launch just a quick poll to find out more about you all who we have here on our webinar. So you should see a poll on your screen that has 2 questions. The first question is asking you to select all that apply. What CK-12 resources have you used previously with your students? So you can check any of those that apply to you. If you've used our FlexBooks, either the 2.0 platform or original FlexBooks, our interactives, adaptive practice, study guides, videos, real world applications. Or there's an option if you have not used it with your students yet. And then the second question is, how do you plan to use CK-12 in the coming months or year? Maybe you don't know yet, you're not sure what the school year is going to look like, you haven't decided, or maybe you have a clear action plan. So I'll pause for just a second while you finish answering the poll. I think we have the majority of answers in. I'll give you just a few more seconds. Okay, we're going to go ahead and share those results. Okay, so we've got kind of some mixed results, and actually the majority of you have not had a chance to use CK-12 with your students yet, and so for all of you, hopefully you're going to get lots of ideas, and then you veteran folks who've used some of our resources, Carl's going to talk you through a bunch of ways to be a more advanced user. And then most of you, it looks like you're looking to supplement your curriculum, which makes a lot of sense for our needs right now. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to my colleague, Carl, and he's going to get started talking about how to create learning opportunities using CK-12.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And a big hello to everybody out there around the world. And especially I want to greet, I saw we had people from Trinidad, Iran, India, the UAE, Philippines, Bahrain. So it's nice that we've kind of covered the planet today, all of us learning about CK-12 and how it can support us, especially during these times of a worldwide pandemic. And a special shout out to all the teachers that are working so hard to kind of make the learning continue. Hopefully today you're going to see some things that will help you and your students as we all explore this new world of distance education. So the easiest way to get started is to find a CK-12 FlexBook 2.0 that matches your course and then assign lessons to get your students started learning. All you need to do is go to ck12.org and then scroll down to what do you want to teach today. From there, you'll be linked directly to the table of contents for that FlexBook. Here you'll see all the chapters in that FlexBook, and then you can click on the expanding arrow to see the titles of the lessons in that chapter. For example, here's a chapter on cell biology. Then I can see that there is a membranes proteins lesson that I can use. So, using the CK-12 books is a really good way to get going. Then once you find that lesson, you can assign it. And this is a really good way for you to get feedback on what your students are doing. Many teachers start using CK-12 as a supplement to their existing curriculum by creating assignments. It can serve as a great resource supporting different ways of learning the content that they're already teaching. So let's say you're teaching linear equations of the distributive property using Engage New York materials that your district gave you. You can assign that concept using the corresponding lesson on the FlexBook 2.0 platform. Then students can explore that concept using a variety of modalities and to fill in their gaps by doing the CK-12 adaptive practice at the bottom of the lesson. You, the teacher, can also, your students will get valuable feedback on their performance on this concept. So it's a win-win. The student gets feedback and you get feedback, even if you're using a different curriculum and then supplementing it with CK-12. Once you assign the lesson, you will receive intelligent teacher insights showing how your students are doing. And remember, these lessons that that you can assign can be the core curriculum or can be used as a supplement to what you're already using. CK-12 adaptive practice is another great way to help your students learn and practice. First off, we know that a digital practice like this is so much better than just a worksheet. And you can assign it kind of daily, or you can say, look, here's 6 different concepts and you need to finish it by Friday. The best thing about it, though, is if you do assign it, you'll get all the feedback. And then along the way, your students are getting feedback on if they're mastering or becoming proficient in that concept. One of the things that the students love is they love to be able to complete the adaptive practice on their mobile phones. And remember that everything that we offer on CK-12 can be used on any device with a browser. There's no app to load. And the only thing that we don't do is we don't offer our simulations on the smartphone because there's not enough room. But other than that, most of the smartphones are a great way for the students to do our adaptive practice. You'll also see in our adaptive practice that we've had teachers write hints. And these hints can be really useful if you're not available to answer a student's question. They're the type of hints that you would have given your students had you been in the room with them. So, now that we're all exploring distance education, the idea here is we are looking for solutions that work. And CK-12's adaptive practice is such a solution. A great way to offer CK-12 resources is to share the URL to a CK-12 concept page or the similar URL to a CK-12 FlexBook 2.0 start page. The big difference is that the concept page offers a broad view of that concept, often spanning many grades. While this is useful for struggling or advanced students, the FlexBook 2.0 start page for that concept is often a better place to start since it focuses on just the content for a specific course. Then, using artificial intelligence of the FlexBook 2.0, all students, including those struggling and advanced, get a personalized journey. Simply look through the table of contents of any FlexBook 2.0 to find the start pages of your concepts that you're going to cover. If you're looking for progress reports, be sure to assign those 2.0 lessons or individual modalities. One of the great strategies that you can use, especially in the times of distance learning, is to use CK-12 PLIX interactives. If you haven't played with these yet, these are a really good way, and we've got all the subjects covered in math and science for middle school and high school. I think there's about 1,300 different PLIX interactives. And the whole idea here is it's a simple interaction that helps students understanding a concept. So you can use it as a warm-up, mid-class activity, or as an exit ticket, or possibly even as a homework. It builds the knowledge, there's some follow-up questions, and then the last question is always an open discussion question. And this really could be useful in times when we're doing distant education. This can be a writing prompt. And you might have the students, for example, fill out a Google form where they write, or some other way that they can do that so that they can think more deeply about the concept that you're working on. Finally, a lot of our open discussion questions link to an online discussion that's already happening in the PLIX forum in the CK-12 Cafe, which is our discussion area. So take a look at those and you'll see that a number of them have great conversations that your students can participate in with a worldwide audience. Another kind of great thing that can be used either in your classroom physically with your students or through distance education are our simulations. And we have simulations that cover topics like physical science and chemistry and so many other physics, so many other ideas here. And you're going to want to take a look at these because these you can do as a demo through Zoom if you'd like, or you can assign it to the students. And they always begin with a guiding question. And they are going to offer to the students an opportunity to dig more deeply into an idea or several ideas put together. A lot of science teachers are using our simulations and our PLIX as phenomena, as this idea that kind of a week's worth of learning is focused on. Once inside, the students have the ability to change variables and discover more intricate parts of these concepts. And finally, a lot of our simulations have slider-based questions that the students have to answer to really demonstrate that they understand this concept deeply. Also, simulations have an opportunity for students and teachers to upload their own real-world examples of this concept. So this is the extension. Where else do we see this phenomena in the world? And it's a really great way to figure out how to implement NGSS. So many schools are doing it using CK-12 content like our simulations. Another area that you might consider using with your students, we have 2,500 real-world applications, or RWAs. And the idea here is they answer the student question, when am I ever going to use this? You know, and often students can't connect to the real world. So CK-12's done the hard work by creating real-world applications of most of our concepts. And students will get engaged with ideas from their lives. Often, it is our suggestion that you use this as a warm-up to engage the student as a hook. And then later, they are great examples to help the students model an idea and then help them analyze what's going on. So take a look at these and you'll see so many real-world applications exist there and make your life easier as a teacher because you can pull those in quickly and get your students thinking about the concepts that you want them to cover. One of the things that we often suggest is you should start customizing a FlexBook 2.0 to match your own scope and sequence. You'll start by choosing one of the existing math or science FlexBook 2.0. And then go in, and it's really easy to change the order of the chapters and the lessons to match the order that you teach them in. You can even add in additional chapters and lessons or remove the ones that you don't need. We've had many teachers take a CK-12 FlexBook and customize it in just a couple of hours. Then you can continue to improve your FlexBook 2.0 throughout the year. Meanwhile, along the way, each of your students will be experiencing our intelligent platform, providing personalized learning for them and giving you the feedback. If you want to add or adjust resources for a particular lesson, you can start with the related content that has already been curated for our 2.0 Math and Science FlexBooks, and then quickly remove the ones you don't want to include. So what this means is we have additional content available. We don't just throw everything into the lesson. We try to kind of put the basics in the lesson, and then we offer extension activities maybe for some of our advanced students, or maybe some basic videos for English language learners that need the ideas shared using more simple, less academic language. So these are things that can be attached to the language and are available to the student under the related content button. So this is really, really useful. Alternately, you can add your own videos and things to make this be exactly what you want. For example, if I flip my classroom, I could put my own videos either in the lesson or just attach them as a related content. Another thing that you can do is you can take the existing CK-12 content and you can customize it into a quiz. And this is useful because sometimes the CK-12 practice that is presented maybe covers things that you don't want, that you don't have to teach. So instead, you might want to curate some of the questions that CK-12 has and then add in some of your own. And you can replace then the practice that's seen at the bottom of the lesson and go ahead and put in your own questions or CK-12 questions that you've chosen. So this is a really useful thing, especially if you're teaching a subject outside of math or science. Like let's say you're teaching social studies and you have a nice history lesson here. You can add in questions, and CK-12 doesn't have any history questions, but you can add them in and your students would experience practicing with those questions as a quiz attached at the bottom of the lesson. Throughout our math and science content, you'll see a variety of media and interactivity included in the lessons. This ranges from videos of science experiments to embedded simulations and PLIX interactives, to inline questions directly in our newest math books. If you're teaching math or science, we suggest you start with one of our 2.0 lessons as these will be the most interactive and the most up-to-date. And you can always adjust the lesson to include your own videos, as I've said, or incorporate additional PLIX or SIMs, or even create questions and use them with the lessons as the students learn this new concept. Another great strategy that I'd love to share with you today is localizing lessons. And this to me is super important because obviously if you can tell the story, you can share this learning, including things that are more relevant to your students, they will get more engaged. So you can go in and you can actually change the content that is in the lesson to include pictures and ideas of things from where you live. Here we have a lesson that was put together in Tennessee, which included a picture of Dustin Lynch, a graduate from the Tullahoma district, when discussing the Grand Ole Opry. So, this was an opportunity for the district to highlight one of their own graduates in the Grand Ole Opry content that their state requires that the students learn as part of history. So consider getting students involved in this process too. Have them contribute images or artwork that they have made that relates to the content in the lesson. Have them collect data on local ecosystem and use that example data for future classes. Split up the topics and have them make review videos that can be included in future books, or maybe they might want to make a video of a lab that you did for the benefit of people that were absent or on a field trip. So these are all great ways to have students create content for other students, but then it gets included as part of the FlexBook that you have for your course. All right, up next, we have the Common Core FlexBooks and concepts. So we've worked very hard to write content specifically for the Common Core state standards in math. And we know that many states are using these. And even if you're from a state that doesn't use them, like Texas, there's still a lot of great learning that can happen by pulling some of the interactives and things out of the books that we've put together. We also have a standards browser where it lists the Common Core standard and then all the content on CK-12 that corresponds to that standard. So you're going to have links to the FlexBook 2.0, but also you're going to have links to the concept pages, which can be really, really useful. So it is really important that if you are from a state that uses Common Core or uses Common Core adjacent, it's a great way to help you find the content you need so that you can get moving with CK-12. And similarly in science, we've got a NGSS browser that will help address things for linking up to NGSS. So from the Explore button at the top of the homepage, you can find NGSS browser, and it will show you a page like this that lists out all the new next generation science standards. And then for each standard, it lists the standard and shows you the corresponding CK-12 concepts. And this is really good because once again, it helps make it easy to find the content you need. And you can link to our concept pages to address the DCIs, but also the cross-cutting concepts, whether it's in math or science. We have content to really support the work that you're trying to do with NGSS. And as I mentioned earlier, our simulations and our PLIX are a great way to address phenomena. And they are wonderful, wonderful things. Like, why do trips to Mars happen only during certain launch windows? Why do diamonds sparkle? How does a capacitive touchscreen work? And finally, how efficient is a wind turbine? So while our simulations cover chemistry, physics, earth, space, and physical science standards, you can use them in a variety of other classes. For example, the water fountain sim can be used in pre-calculus when talking about parametric equations, or the crossroads sim can be a starting point to discuss trade. Even better, team up with a colleague across the discipline and create a lesson that spans both subject areas and helps students see the relevance of one subject in another class. Now here's my shout out for Twitter, especially in these times when we're all out there looking for resources. Twitter can be a wonderful resource for educators. If you have not joined the Twitter world yet, I really want this to be the moment when you decide, you know, Carl suggested it and I'm going to go give it a try. A lot of us are working from home and facing a little isolation, and it's nice to connect with communities of people doing the same thing. We have a lot of teachers out there that are strong advocates and are quite vocal on Twitter, and they're sharing teaching practices, and it's wonderful to hear about these and inspire you in a time when maybe we're all looking for a little inspiration. So you'll hear from some of the leading experts, including CK-12, and if you haven't done so already, set up an account and just lurk for a while, and the first person you should follow, in this case, organization, is at CK-12 Foundation. We'd love you to follow us. We share a lot of great information all the time. Our marketing department picks things out, and we really try to make connections. I also suggest that you follow these hashtags, and there's a list of them here on the screen where you're going to be able to see what's going on. And I suggest hashtag blended learning, hashtag personalized learning, hashtag OER is a really good one for lots of great free open resources. Hashtag Go Open, 21st Century Skills, EdTech, Math, Sci, Chat, and STEM. And just today, in advertising this webinar, I posted on OER, Go Open, I hashtag Math and Science Chat. So these are very active, and if you're looking for content, this is a great way to do it here. Finally, flipping your classroom. And I think a lot of you have done this already just out of necessity, where you're creating short little videos to give some kind of direct instruction to your students, and then you post them online. And so this is something that you could consider using CK-12 to help you flip your classroom so that your students can do more as part of distance education. Homework can be really fun using CK-12 videos and interactive lessons. Having your students do our PLIX interactives and our sims is a great way to engage students. And finally, by assigning the adaptive practice as homework, you can use any live sessions or in-person sessions to really dig deeper because you've already covered the basics with your students in homework. So I know that I've just thrown a ton of stuff at you there, and it's a lot to digest, and we're only kind of a third of the way through the content. And so, you know, the purpose of this today is to give you a big overview, to wet your whistle a little bit so that you have some reasons to go back and find out more and try some things out with your students. But meanwhile, Lindsay, are there any questions that I can answer as we take a little pause here?
Well, I think so, Carl. We have a request, actually, if you're able to go live to our site. Somebody's asking about how a PLIX works, and can you receive a grade for a PLIX?
Sure. So let me go ahead and steal the screen from you, and I'm going to do some screen management here. Okay, so the question was about our PLIX. So I always start at the CK-12 homepage. I'm logged in, and I like this Explore menu right here because it gets me to a lot of the things I've already been talking about. For example, here was that Common Core browser, NGSS browser, the simulations, and you can see one of the options here is our PLIX. So I'm going to load up the PLIX browse page, and on the browse page, I have the opportunity to choose which one of the subjects I'm going to be working with, and maybe let's choose algebra or geometry. So the idea here is we want to go and do one of these PLIX interactives, and let's go pick one. I like this one, volume of pyramids. That's fun. So we're going to go ahead and open the volume of pyramids, and I see, but I love when I work from home now and that we've got kind of sketchy internet at times. I'm sure it happens with you, and now I'm actually in algebra here. So let's go pick another one. Let's go through here. There it is. Here's algebraic expressions with fraction bars. So the idea with a PLIX is that you've got some instruction, and then over here, you've got an area where you're gonna go change, usually one variable, but sometimes two, and then you follow it up and you check the learning, and the student gets to answer some questions and maybe kind of see if they fully understand that. This is a learning activity. So this is not an assessment. These weren't built to be assessments. These were built to be to help the students learn. That's why there's things like hints, and you get to try and you get to see the answer. And we really want the students to be able to explore this concept. And then as they're answering questions, come over here and try something else with a different height, etc. So we do not give a lot of feedback other than the student tried the PLIX. But we don't pass back individual answers and things, because as I said, it's a learning activity instead of an assessment activity. But you'll notice here's that really good open discussion question. All the PLIX questions end with an open discussion question. And these are really good, especially in distance learning now. You can assign these to the students and have them like write a response, or maybe participate. You could, in your Q&A, if you set up your class on CK-12, you have a question and answer area. You could post this, the students could post their responses in that area. So let's have another question, Lindsay.
Well, one of our users said that she received information on Flexlets for the summer. And I know I saw it on the homepage where you were earlier. Can you give some suggestions for how to integrate or use the Flexlets?
Yeah, these are really exciting. In the past, we've done a variety of other summer programs to keep the learning happening, to keep the brain working during the summer, when we often know that there's a little brain drain that happens with our students. So this is our newest way to maximize summer learning. And I think we call them Flexlets. So think of like a booklet that would cover a course or prepare you for your next course, but we've kind of simplified it so it's not a whole big course, but just the important things that you might want your students to review. And let's take a look here. So if I'm prepping for 7th grade math, this is the one I would look at. And then there's prep for a variety of other courses, including a review of algebra or a review of geometry. And for science, we have them for a variety of other courses too. These are all FlexBooks though, so you can customize any of these. So let's go in here to this review of algebra that I might assign. So let's say I'm an 8th grade teacher and my students have had some algebra, or I've taught Algebra 1 this year, and I want my students to go ahead and learn, make sure that they got everything out of Algebra 1. So what we've done here is we've made just a mini FlexBook, a Flexlet, and we have the topics that we think are super important in order to prepare them for the next level of math, which in this case would be Algebra 2. Now, because this is the FlexBook, you can come here and you can click Customize, and you can take out the things you don't need and add in things you do. But the idea is as we finish up the school year, you can assign this to your students, and they can then do it over the summer. And parents can also do this. You can encourage your parents to be the teacher and to create a class on CK-12 and assign their one student to do this work. And then they'll get the feedback over the summer on what progress their student is making. All right, I think what we're going to do, just to be mindful of time, is we're going to push forward here. Keep your questions going. I know we have a whole crew of people, including Katie, Tuscany, and Monique, that are working hard to answer your questions in the Q&A window. Remember, the chat window is for chatting with the fellow webinar participants, but if you want CK-12 to answer a question, be sure to post it in the Q&A window. All right, Lindsay steals back my lesson, my screen.
I think it's time to talk about differentiation, learning, and literacy.
Excellent. So with this here, we are going to first talk about differentiated lessons and assignments. And then, the idea here, we can create multiple groups or classes and then put different students in each one, and then create assignments specifically. And then finally, we're going to look at some ideas and some strategies on improving learning and literacy. So the first one we're going to look at is differentiated classes. And this is what I always suggest, that you, besides having kind of period 2, geometry or whatever it is you normally teach, I'll go ahead and make some subgroups. And we still call these classes on CK-12 if you're doing that. And in this case, maybe I'll create the purple group and the green group and the yellow group. And what the students don't know is the purple group is some of my English language learners that need more foundational content before they can kind of learn the academic language. And maybe my yellow group is some of my kind of advanced students that need more extension projects or modalities because they've already mastered the basic level things. So the nice thing is everyone's getting assignments from CK-12. There's no stigma. I'm not moving all the purple people off to one side of the classroom. And the nice thing is you can still create assignments that go to the whole class, or you can choose to put them into the differentiated groups. The next thing that we have is, once again, to use our adaptive practice as challenge and support. Remember, the nice thing about our adaptive practice is that each student is learning at the appropriate level for them. In the first 3 questions that they answer, our system uses its intelligence to figure out where that student is. Then it offers content right at the level where they need to start building. Along the way, if our system sees the student struggling, we pause them, and right in that moment, we offer an intervention of, here's a video you might watch to learn this, or here's a simulation you might do. So right when the student's experiencing that pain, we offer them an intervention to get them caught up to where they should be and back on track. Then after the students complete the adaptive practice, we have reports that help them and also help you as the teacher understand where they are. And remember, if you assign a lesson in a FlexBook 2.0 FlexBook, you're going to automatically have assigned the adaptive practice. And our next thing is about these inline questions. So I had mentioned earlier that a lot of our new math books have this great new feature called inline questions, and that is during the lesson, there are questions which test if the students fully understand. So they offer them the question, and also important, they offer them feedback, and this is instant feedback. Here's why that answer is not correct. So you can create inline questions in addition to the ones that CK-12 offers. And you can help the students, especially when you're not physically in the same classroom as them, as we, unfortunately, many of us are now during the COVID pandemic. To offer them feedback and set up these inline questions is a great way to help them get over their mini hurdles. And another thing that I often do is I encourage you to pick some of your advanced students and have them create these questions, and also think about what's the feedback they would give for the kind of common wrong answers. And this, as an activity for an advanced student, this is an excellent way for them to really kind of fine-tune their knowledge on this concept. All right, up next we have with simulations to challenge and support. So try the challenge questions and sketch out predictions with the graphs off. So you'll take a look here where you have the option to turn on and off the graphs. So if you have the students working and then to not see the graphs but to make predictions, this is a really kind of high-level thinking question that really helps them understand what's going on in this simulation. And then we have links to the tutorial pages and concept page links and other details via the info icon. Finally, we have worksheets that are available in PDF form electronically, which are a great companion for our simulations. So just lots of support in using our simulations to challenge and support your students. We also have translated these simulations into other languages. So you'll want to check to see, we have, there's about 8 languages now. And then also we have the ability to create additional questions that can be uploaded. And you can create your own slider questions or have students come up with some. And remember that simulations are a great way to dispel misconceptions. And, sims use the sims to have the students address misconceptions like, a very common one, particles of solids have no motion. And you use the building bridge sim to help the students understand that misconception. And there's a whole list of them there. But our sims are these super powerful learning tools, one of the many modalities we offer on CK-12. Our PLIX are another great learning resource. Remember, I mentioned that they have hints, and while the students are answering questions, we give them the feedback, this is right, this isn't. So please understand that the PLIX are really, really useful to helping students learn a concept, especially if you're not there guiding the activity live with them. We have a link on each one of our PLIX back to the concept page where the student, if they're not understanding what's going on, can choose a different modality to learn the same concept. And finally, we offer the ability to explore the interactive and PLIX with each other. All right, we're going to move on now and talk about highlighting, and it's our whole literacy section, and we're going to hear from a CK-12 teacher who uses the digital highlighting feature to help her students process academic texts.
A student has more than one learning modality, learns through multiple modalities. A feature that CK-12 provides is the highlighting with different colors. So I'm able to not only emphasize a key point, but I'm able to assign it to a specific color that can also trigger maybe another memory for them.
Yeah, so highlighting and annotating is really useful, and we offer different colors, and there's even a separate section that summarizes everything that's been highlighted. So we know that highlighting is synthesizing. It's helping the students analyze and process text. And we use the expression talking to the text, and this tool can be really useful in both highlighting and also summarizing by making their own notes in their own words. So take a look at this if you haven't used this. It's a great way to promote literacy, especially for students struggling with academic texts. All right, one of the things that you might not have seen already is we do offer foreign language support, translation options on many of our pages. All of our lesson pages, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll have access to translate instantly everything on that page to one of the Google languages. And what I've seen, students love this because sometimes they don't have the academic language in English and they need to supplement it with other words that they know in their home language. So I've seen them where they bring up the CK-12 FlexBook on their phone in their home language, and then on their Chromebook, they're looking at the same lesson but in English, and they're building their vocabulary that way. Another idea here is to involve your parents. And, if you can send links to the CK-12 concept pages, this really helps parents get involved with what is my student learning. And, we package things in the form often of a FlexBook, which is a textbook with a table of contents. They're familiar with this. When my son went to high school, I didn't have access a lot of times to the content that their teachers were using because it was all in Google folders and I didn't have access and I had no idea what was going on. So imagine sharing your FlexBooks that you're using from CK-12 or you've customized with your parents. And then they have the option of translating it into their own home language. You're really involving your parents in a way that's meaningful, and it allows them to engage with their students saying, yeah, I remember learning about waves, and they can have conversations around the dining room table. So please take a look at these wonderful ideas here and figure out what you can do. A lot of us are finishing up the school year right now, so maybe sending home some link of some concepts that are particularly difficult for students and encouraging the parents to talk about them with their students to support what you're doing. All right, up next we have El Paso Independent School District administrator talking about the power of CK-12's Translate feature.
I met a parent who was struggling with supporting his daughter because he did not speak English very well. So I brought up the CK-12 on my iPad. I quickly showed him how he can change the language, and he was nearly in tears, and he felt just so excited that now that he could help his daughter, which was emotional for me too, knowing that this is what CK-12 is about. This is what we want our parents, our language learners, no matter where they come from, no matter what language they speak, they need to find a place in our classroom, and CK-12 helps us to do that.
Wow, thanks, Cynthia. That's amazing. All right, Lindsay, any more questions out there?
We had a flurry of questions come in about highlighting and annotating because they saw you demo that feature. But the question is can teachers highlight things that when assigned, will the students see those highlights, or is the highlighting feature for students as they're doing the assignment?
Yeah, at this point, the highlighting feature is a learning tool for the students that they will have in their book, which is not shared with the teacher. So we've talked about whether we're going to possibly one day kind of address this feature request. But at this time, when a student highlights in their book, they are seeing it themselves, and they're only it is only shared with their book and not with the teacher. And the same as teachers, when they highlight in their book, it is not shared with the students to give them the opportunity to do that. But I want to show you here, if I've just highlighted this, and let's say I highlight that, you can see these notes and highlights by going over to the toolbar. And here's that related content I was talking about, the teacher insights, but here's the notes and highlights, and it shows you exactly what was highlighted.
Okay, question about the FlexLits that you showed earlier. What's the estimated amount of time it would take students to complete a FlexLit?
You know, I think for many of these, we can go in. I would say it's going to be like 20 to 30 sessions over the summer. You know, so imagine if like here, we can go take a look. Each one of these is probably not like a full class period or anything. These are just, these are just mini concepts that the students could attack in, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So, I think the idea is encouraging your students to do a little bit every day over the summer. Yeah, go spend 15 minutes a day with CK-12 as a way of keeping the brain working so it doesn't forget everything. But it's not like it's a full course or anything. It's simply summer learning.
Excellent. I encourage you all to keep your questions coming in. I'm going to go back to our presentation, and Carl, we've reached the, I think, final part of what we're going to talk about today, which is assessment, progress, and remediation.
Excellent. Yeah, and this is a really great field too. The goal of this webinar, as I've mentioned, is just to offer you some strategies of using CK-12. You don't have to, use CK-12 as your core curriculum if you don't want to. You can use it for various parts of things that you do. And so the first part we're going to take a look at here is learning versus assessment. We're going to talk about how that is done on CK-12, whether the learning happens in our adaptive practice, or you do some assessment by creating some quizzes or tests on CK-12. And then finally, we'll take a look at progress and remediation, and to really understand how CK-12 can support figuring out exactly what learning path each student needs. So our first one is assessment, progress, and remediation with learning versus assessment. So many CK-12 resources are designed with learning in mind. So for example, our simulations, inline questions, and PLIX interactives are all meant to help the student learn. With this in mind, we provide direct feedback and offer hints and other support. These modalities give complete and incomplete scores when assigning them. And that's all we let you know. It's not like we try to go any deeper because we want the student not to feel judged. They just want to go play and learn. If you want to see how the students are doing on questions, we recommend that you use our adaptive practice because we offer both a completion score and a skill level, and then quizzes to see actual student progress. And that's where you're giving the students a specific number of questions, and they have to answer them. There's no adaptivity in our quizzes. Another thing you can do is using our pre and post test, using CK-12's quiz feature. So you can put together, you can choose some questions that you know that you're going to want to track. Did they learn this? So create a pre-test, and then you can offer it the same test as the post-test or create a different one. And it really helps you assess what's their starting knowledge and then what kind of growth has happened. So this is something that I've seen a lot of teachers use CK-12 for. And then next, we offer, as I mentioned, the ability to create quizzes and attach those to the lesson instead of the adaptive practice. And sometimes teachers find this useful, as I mentioned, because maybe the lesson previously focused on something that they didn't necessarily need to cover, so they don't want to use the CK-12 adaptive practice because it has questions that aren't relevant for their students. So they create a different version of the practice, and it's a quiz, and they attach it here at the bottom. All right, and then reports are really useful on CK-12. We offer a heat map that really gives you, at a glance, how are your students doing? And there's the ability to click on a score and dig deeper, see what level the student's at, how many easy questions did they answer, how many medium, how many hard, and then you can even see which questions they got right and which were the questions that they got wrong. And it helps you understand maybe what you need to focus on during your next lesson, or maybe creating some intervention activities for certain students who are struggling in a specific area. Our insights are something that more and more teachers are using as they're assigning lessons from any FlexBook 2.0. And the benefit of assigning a lesson is that you're given feedback of how the student's doing on their adaptive practice, but also how much time did they spend on the lesson, including a histogram off to the left-hand side, which shows you exactly where did the student spend the time. They spent a minute watching this video, they spent 2 minutes doing this interactive or reading this paragraph or looking at this example. So this can give you a lot of good information to help diagnose maybe the reason they don't understand it is they really didn't read the lesson, and you can give them a little feedback on that. Remediation through recommendations is really important, and with a lot of our science books, especially that are text-based, where there's a lot of text, we're able to have the students answer questions and then highlight in the text where we think they should go continue learning because they haven't learned it well enough. So you can have the students see a blinking dot and then click on that blinking dot to see a question related to that paragraph that the student missed. This too can help you plan your next lesson or work with specific students to review these topics. So I think, Lindsay, we are going to pause once again and take a few questions. Then we're going to go wrap up the session and stay on as long as you all have questions. So we'll answer a couple right now, and then we'll wrap it up and finish answering questions.
Sure. So Carl, a question of, are there any additional features for special needs students? I know you've talked about some ways to differentiate. Anything else that you can think of to suggest to teachers?
Sure. And I'm going to just take the screen back again, if you don't mind. I think, CK-12 is set up for special needs students. Like it has features that can benefit all students, but I'm going to go into this lesson here. And I'm going to pull up as an example here, just if we have students that have visual issues, and the nice thing is we have a display setting here where I can change black on white, or I can make it much bigger. And then of course I'm using a Chrome browser and we're optimized for Chrome. And there are plugins that I can use, third-party plugins that will read this whole page to me, okay? I also maybe might create some scaffolding that I would put together for this lesson, and maybe I would include it here under related content. Maybe I would have a little diagram or a notes sheet that I would have, blocks of, text or something. So I can create content that would benefit my second language learners or my special ed students and who has specific needs with their IEP. There's lots of ways to do this. So CK-12 is really a good partner in this because we are customizable. We can help you do all the things that you're already doing for your students with special needs.
Carl, what recommendations do you have for our users who are looking for elementary content or for content outside of our STEM subjects?
Sure. So, you know, we have, as we come down here, you can see for math and science, we have some content. For math, it's going to be videos and adaptive practice. And then over here, we have some readers. But, you know, it's funny, I was just talking to some elementary school teachers yesterday that use our Sims and our PLIX, and they use those as kind of a lab setting with their students. And even though they're written for middle school and high school, there's a lot of great content that using the like NGS standards that they have to address. So they've been putting together their own work to be able to do this. And I want to point you all to, this is the schools page here. You're going to find a lot of content from other classes. And I'm going to point out here very quickly here that our friends down in California here in Merced County have been working really hard. The County Office of Education, when COVID hit, when the coronavirus happened, they said, we need the content and we're going to use CK-12 to get it. So they've been putting together their own science books and doing an amazing job. And I really want to give them a big shout out because this shows you an example of how a whole county did this and then are offering it now to all the districts in their county, and then each district is offering it to their schools. So, you know, just because, you know, we have a lot for middle school and high school, you can use our schools page to find a lot of other content, including for content that's not math and science, but is, you know, economics, history, and, you know, a lot of that you're going to find using our search bar. So I think we're going to wrap things up here. Lindsay, you want to wrap things up, and then I'm going to stay on with Lindsay and we're going to answer all remaining questions.
That sounds great. Like I said, this webinar is kind of the third in the series that we've been running for our Certified Educator program. That we had one on FlexBooks, one on customizing FlexBooks and adaptive practice, and then this one that's kind of putting it all together with the teaching strategies. We start that whole series over again in June. So you can see that we have a webinar coming up on Thursday, June 4th. That's our first one, that FlexBook 2.0 platform at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And then the following week on Thursday, June 11th at 1 o'clock, we'll have the customizing CK-12 FlexBooks and adaptive practice. You can register for those at ck12.org/webinars. That's also where we will post this webinar within the next 24 hours. We have an archived section, so if you need to go back and revisit it, you are able to do so. Like I said, if you need any additional information about the Certified Educator program, you can go to ck12.org/certified. You can press that register button to go ahead and get started. If you're already in the program, awesome. You're working your way through assignments. We have your attendance for this live webinar. If you're joining us right now, we have your attendance recorded, so no action item there. Just make sure that you're doing your assignments, and then you'll complete a final form when you're all finished with all of those. We do love to get some feedback, so if you have just about 2 minutes to answer a few quick survey questions, this is the link to the survey. It's another tinyurl.com, CK12 feedback 1920. So that's tinyurl.com, CK12 feedback 1920. We do read all of your comments, and they help us in preparing for future webinars. So again, I'm going to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions related to the Certified Educator program, content, email jumpstart@ck12.org and we can get you quick responses to those. If you have like technical questions about something's, you know, not working the way you think it should, that would probably go to support@ck12.org. So those are two great email addresses to have, jumpstart or support. Also, like Carl plugged earlier, you can find us on all the socials at CK12 Foundation. The hashtag CK12 certified is also a good one to check the conversations about CK12. So for any of you who are needing to jump off this webinar, you're welcome to do so. We have reached the hour mark, but I think Carl's had a chance to go through the Q&A, and he's gonna answer a few questions live while our team continues to type answers to some other questions.
Sure, happy to do so. So I'm going to go back here. I've just stolen the screen, I think, from Lindsay. Lindsay, by the way, is out in the middle of the United States, and I'm here in California. And we have a team over in New Hampshire and Colorado. So the CK-12 team now is around the country trying to help you out here. So these are always a little bit of logistics here, but I think today we haven't had too many flubs, so that's good. Rebecca has a question here about insights and wondering, is that just through the CK-12 classes, or if you're using Google Classroom, will you have access to the insights? And the answer is yes. Through Google Classroom, you can see insights, and you will, as part of the assignment there, you'll be able to click through to the assignment from Google Classroom, and then you'll see the insights there. And I'm going to go ahead and just quickly show you how to access that once you're on the page. Just as a reminder, I'm going to go into grade 7. I don't know if there's any data on this one, but we'll try it. I think there might. If I remember correctly, combining like terms, let's go see if there's data. So this is my lesson, and remember, you access the insights over here to the right in the toolbar, and then you pull up the class that you want to do, and maybe there's not any insights on this here, but this is where, oh, here we go. So this is where maybe you would see the level that the students got, and then you could click on individual students if they've already started it. So this is where, even through Google Classroom, you would access that. All right, and we have another question here. How can I help students who complain that they're not given access on the videos? Yeah, some school districts block YouTube, and a lot of videos are stored on YouTube or Vimeo. Unfortunately, CK-12 doesn't have a way around that problem. Luckily, at this point, a lot of students are at home, and most people at home don't block YouTube, so they should be able to access them during our distance education moments. Our district uses CK-12, and it's already in the platform that we're using. My problem is I don't know where I can access the quizzes and how to connect to my gradebook. So I'm not sure which, if you're using CK-12 directly or through some other LMS. So I'm just going to broadly offer for everybody to say, you know, we have a lot of great support here for all of our LMSs that we work with. And I want to show you over here in the help desk. For those of you who haven't seen the help desk before, pick your role, and in this case, it's teachers and parents. But the nice thing is it talks about CK-12 classes, kind of how to customize FlexBooks, how to make practice and quizzes, but then specific sections on using CK-12 with Google Classroom or with Canvas, Edmodo, kind of our Brain Genie product, Schoology's here. So there's a variety of things that can help you here that maybe you don't see, you know, or you don't understand from our website. So take a look at that. Once again, there's the help button up there. And then if you still don't understand, please contact us at support@ck12.org. We had a request to see a sim with one of the translations. So once again, I'm going to go find my sims by going to the Explore button on the home page, and then clicking simulations. And here we have a lot of prom night. Maybe that's the one I'm going to choose here, because a lot of our students did not get to go to prom. They had the dress, they had the tux, and they didn't go. So here we have the sim right here, and you're able to translate it into a variety of languages. And maybe I have to go back here. Before I do that, yeah, sorry, I should have chosen the language here on the browse page. I'm going to choose Chinese, Polish, Greek, Chinese, Korean. So let's go choose Korean here, and you'll see that at prom night there is now in Korean. So we have a few languages. It is done on a volunteer basis, you know, because CK-12 doesn't charge for anything. We often ask for volunteers to help us do some of the great work that we do. Alrighty, I don't have access to the Q&A window anymore, Lindsay, so do you have a question for me?
I think our team has cleared it out, so I guess we will thank everybody for taking time to join us today, and wish you all a good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and we hope to see you on a future webinar.
Absolutely. Stay safe out there, folks.